morning. Well, in this episode, I am going to be sharing with you how prayer can actually give you comfort. When we lose, whether it's a furry friend, a family friend, a dear friend, loss is tough. It's tough because you remember very clearly how they gave you comfort, how they gave you solace, and how you knew that if ever you had an issue, they were there for you. They were there for you. Today, I would like to share in this episode how my when Max passed, that's my furry friend, my pug of 17 and a half years, what I did. And I'm also going to be sharing with you what I did when my son passed. So let's first deal with Max. Now, I adopted Max from a pug rescue. He was 10 months old and he made it to 17 and a half years. That's a long time for a pug. And when I got him, I was really uncomfortable locking him up in a crate. So I bought a gate for my laundry room. That way I thought, well, he's going to have more time to roam around, okay? Well, I came home from work, and lo and behold, Max was on the other side of the gate with the biggest grin on his face. He had had the best time that day. And that was Max. He enjoyed life. And Max was always there to give me comfort, always there to give me solace. And he absolutely loved his walks. I mean, he knew when the clock was approaching 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, he would be prancing around. Okay, come on. It's time for the walk. And the longer the walk, the better. So what was Max teaching me? The importance of exercise. He loved it. He loved adventures. Car rides were, oh my goodness, they were just the highlight of his life. And so when Max passed, I then put a prayer up to God. And I said, God, I don't know how you're going to do this, but I want you to give me a sign that Max is having a really good time in pug heaven. I mean, just the best ever. Now, a couple of days went by, and I happened to be at Publix. And at the checkout, there was a National Geographic magazine. Now, I don't normally think of Publix carrying National Geographic magazines, but on that day, there were copies of that magazine. What do you think was on the cover? A pug. A pug was on the cover. And every National Geographic magazine has a theme to it. So the theme to that magazine, for that edition, I should say, was how animals give us comfort. So I leafed through the magazine. There were no other pictures of pugs. The mention of dogs was minimal, but there on the cover was the picture of a pug. And I said, God, I don't know how you do this, but I am grateful that you are letting me know that that Max is having a really, really good time in pug heaven. And you see, in the real world, no person was a stranger. Every person was worth knowing. Every person was worth meeting. I mean, he just exuded with love for everyone. I do believe that in the spirit world, Max is going to be sharing his great qualities with other spirits. There could be spirits coming into the spirit world where their life was tough. They didn't feel respected. They didn't feel appreciated. Maybe they felt abandoned. Who knows? But Max is going to make their spirit world better. Max is going to greet them with as much exuberance as he met everyone in real life. He's going to do that in the spirit world as well. And in the process, he's going to make their life better. So I share this because your Siamese cat, your German Shepherd, your poodle, the same loving furry friends that gave you comfort and solace are going to be doing the same thing in the spirit world. I share this just so you have some comfort in knowing that your furry friend is still doing good work. Do I miss Max? Yes, I do. I do. I miss the times when we would watch movies and he would eat popcorn. I do miss that. But I do know that Max is in a good place and continuing to do good work for others. Absolutely. Now, I'd like to share with you the passing of my son. It was unexpected. And when my former husband called to let me know that John had passed, it was a shock. Tears, wails, yes. But the same question I put to God regarding Max, I did the same thing for John. And I said, God, again, I don't know how you're going to do this, but I want you to give me a sign that John is in a really good place. He's in a good place. Give me a sign. Now, that was on a Wednesday. Now, before I share with you what I witnessed on Saturday, I need to give you a little bit of backstory about John. John had always had a fascination with real estate, always. Century 21 had posted an ad for a person who could analyze real estate for the purpose of investing. John applied. And the woman said, John, I can clearly see your passion for real estate. I get it. But we really need someone who has more experience in real estate. Now, it was that interview that piqued John's interest to get a master's in real estate. He went online and he asked this question: what is the number one school for studying real estate online? It was Georgetown. He said, alrighty then, that is where I will earn my degree. John knew that having a degree from the University of Florida stood him in good stead, particularly since Florida is the fourth ranking public university in the entire country. So he knew that. But he also knew that his B average was not going to get him into Georgetown. He had no other choice. He had to think outside the box. And this was a gift that John was incredibly good at. And the thing about thinking outside the box, usually it means that you're coming up with an idea that probably no one in their right mind would even think of or consider doing. But this is what John did. He went out and bought a dictionary that focused only on real estate. There were 1,000 terms in all. He then created a sublist of real estate categories. One by one, he placed all 1,000 terms under the appropriate category. Now, I have no idea how long it took John to do that. I have no idea. But I know this: when that phase was completed, he then drafted a cover letter and sent the entire package to the dean of the real estate school. When the woman called from the registrar's office to let John know that he had been admitted to Georgetown, she said, John, I want you to know you beat out candidates that had credentials that were beyond stellar. Seriously, beyond stellar. But you were admitted. Now, I share that out of the box thinking story so that if ever you are in a situation where it seems like you have a goal, but it looks like reality is working against you, think outside the box. Now, as John was doing his coursework, which he completed, he would receive magazines or brochures of men's clothiers, upscale men's clothiers. In other words, implying, okay, John, when you earn your degree from Georgetown, this is how you can expect to dress. One of the catalogs that John loved was a catalog that represented Scotch and soda. Scotch and soda is an upscale, casual men's clothing line. John absolutely loved that line, so much so that he had a jacket, t-shirts, sweaters, you name it, he had it. And these weren't just run-of-the-mill t-shirts. Oh, no. These were stylish, beautiful t-shirts, the same as sweaters. Now, I share that because on that following Saturday, I needed to go to the mall to pick up something from the mall, and I always, like clockwork, I enter the mall from the same location. It's from the Dillard's garage entrance. I never waver because I always want to make sure I don't lose my car, okay? Because I had done that when I wasn't doing the parking ritual, I'll call it that. Well, I took 2 steps in. Do you know what was in front of me? A full-on display of Scotch and soda attire. It had never been there, and it's never been there since. I mean, it had the hat, the jacket, t-shirt, I mean, everything. Scotch and soda. I said, God, you continually blow me away. I honestly don't know how you did this. I don't know how you did this. And the thing is, you know, when you enter a mall, you know yourself that you can enter from many different directions. Many. How did God know that I entered the mall only from the Dillard's garage entrance? How did God know that? That's why I consistently come to the conclusion God is pure genius. Pure genius. So I know that John is in a good place in heaven. And just as John was a prolific reader of all of his literature books that he read, I mean, Charles Dickens was his favorite author. He read 17 of his novels, not to mention all the other myriad of authors that he had read. And he had a photographic memory. He also shared wisdom. And I know in John's way that he is going to be sharing and imparting wisdom to the spirits that he meets along the way. And I do hope that in the spirit world, John has a chance to meet St. Francis of Assisi. That was his favorite saint. I mean, read his autobiography, loved everything about St. Francis of Assisi. I hope, since Charles Dickens was his favorite author, that he has a chance to meet Charles Dickens. So, friends, I share this with you to give you another perspective that while loss is tough, it's challenging to accept. It doesn't always give you comfort, but with this prayer, try it. See how God answers you. I mean, like the magazine, it was different. The scotch and soda display. How did God do that? But God gave me comfort. And so I know John is in a good place. And with his wisdom and his incredible sense of humor, that he is helping others in the spirit world to look at their lives from a different angle. I'm reasonably confident that John is doing that. And I hope that what I'm sharing and what I did, that is something you might want to try. Because if you're open to letting God in, God will give you an answer. And I want you to know that in every way, you are awesome. You are the best. And no one comes any finer than you. And that's the truth. And in my next episode, I am going to share with you how authentic action, when it is witnessed, can make a profound difference. It can trigger belief. It can trigger change. So join me when I share how that comes together, how authentic action works, and it can make a difference in other people's lives. How you, by your authentic action, can make a difference in other people's lives. So until we meet again, know this: you are blessed. You are worth knowing. You are worth meeting. And I encourage you to go out and share goodness in your own way with other people. God bless.